Before the story finds you, let your breathing slow like a distant tide. The world you left behind can wait outside the door. Tonight, there is only the soft weight of blankets, the gentle rhythm of your heart, and a tale drifting toward you like a warm lantern in the dark. Listen without effort, without hurry stories, know the way to dreams better than we do. Some cities exist only when the mind grows quiet enough to hear them. Iris is one of those places, balanced between waking and sleep, between falling and holding on. And in that fragile space, a boy named Milo once learned that even gravity can have a memory. In the city of Aeris, silence was an omen more terrifying than death. In the city of Aeris, silence was an omen more terrifying than death. The city was a patchwork quilt of civilization, stitched together with massive chains and rusted bridges atop thousands of volcanic rock fragments floating in an endless blue void. Here, the music of life was not the whistling of the wind, but a harsh, industrial symphony created by millions of metal solas striking the ground with every step. Clang, clang. In this world, gravity was like an old, resentful god whispered about by grandfathers to their grandsons. It had abandoned the city centuries ago. The only things holding people, buildings, and soil together were the massive magnetic core at the city center and the heavy boots of soles lined with lead and tungsten alloy that everyone was forced to wear before they even learned to walk. When Milo entered his grandfather Orion's room, he was met with a familiar stinging scent of rust and medicine. The room was dim, the windows nailed shut with thick planks. "Grandpa?" Milo called out. There was no answer, only a soft scraping sound coming from the ceiling. Milo looked up. His grandfather, Orion, was floating against the ceiling corner like a trapped balloon. His back was pressed against the plaster, his white hair undulating around his head like a halo in the zero-gravity environment. His eyes were open, but his gaze did not belong to this world. "Did you take your boots off again?" Milo asked, his voice trembling. He climbed a ladder and grabbed his grandfather's wrist. The old man's bone felt so light, it was as if Milo were holding the hollow bone of a bird. Orion looked down at Milo with empty eyes. "The shoes are too heavy, Milo," he whispered. "They pull me down. I want to go to the clouds. Elisa is there. I see her." Milo's heart clenched. This was the final and most deadly stage of the fading sickness, Levitas dementia. In Aries, physical weight was not provided solely by metals. Scientists called it the law of spiritual mass. The thing that truly pressed a human to the ground, that nailed them to the earth, was the weight of their soul. Memories, regrets, pain, loves, hatreds. These were the atoms of the spirit. As a person aged, memories accumulated, grew heavier, and they walked more firmly. That was why the boots of the elderly were lighter, while the youth wore the heaviest gear. But patients like Orion became lighter as they forgot. As the past was erased, gravity lost its hold on them. The soul broke its earthly tethers, and the ascension began. If something wasn't done, Orion would soon break the windows, drift into the sky, and freeze to death in the oxygen-less layers above. Milo forced his grandfather down. It wasn't a matter of strength. It was like trying to submerge a balloon underwater. He laid him on the bed and strapped him down with thick leather belts. Then he brought the heavy iron boots from the corner of the room. "I'm doing this for your own good," Milo said, locking his grandfather's feet into the boots. His fingers ached as he tied the knots. Orion began to cry like a child. His tears did not stream down his cheeks. They pulled in his eyes and floated away in tiny, salty spheres. "Let me go," the old man moaned. "I'm so light. They took the stones out of me. I can fly now." After his grandfather fell asleep, and after Milo tied extra weights to the legs of the bed, Milo threw himself out into the city. The streets of Ares were treacherous. The city was governed by a vertical hierarchy. At the bottom lived the rich, heaviest, and safest, close to the magnetic core where the risk of falling up was minimal. The poor, like Milo and his grandfather, lived in the high districts, the peripheral edges. Here, a wrong step wouldn't make you fall into an abyss. On the contrary, the wind would snatch you and hurl you upwards. Milo crossed swaying bridges connected by chains. The wind filled his coat like a sail, trying to pull him up. He slammed his boots hard against the ground, moving to the rhythm of clang-clang. His destination was the Rusty District, where the city's industrial waste was dumped. This was a place of steam pipes, noisy pistons, and forbidden shops. At the end of a narrow alley, he stopped in front of a dilapidated shop with dusty jars in the window. Atlas's burdened secondhand memory and emotion emporium. The bell on the door rang with a rusty tone. Inside, it smelled of heavy incense and burnt metal. The shelves were filled with glass tubes containing swirling colored smoke. In some red anger boiled, and others blue sorrow rippled. "Close that door," said the man behind the counter. Vargo. Vargo was the oldest and heaviest man in the city. He possessed so many memories, both his own and others, that he didn't need boots. He walked barefoot, his steps heavy enough to crack the floorboards. One of his eyes was blind, replaced by a mechanical, constantly focusing lens. "Milo," Vargo said, scanning the boy with his lens. "Back again? Did the war trauma I gave your grandfather not work?" That memory weighed at least 5 kilos. "It didn't work," Milo said, dumping a pouch of metal coins onto the counter. His body rejected it. He had nightmares all night and vomited, and by morning he was lighter than before. He forgot Elisa, Vargo. He erased his wife completely. He doesn't even remember her name now. Vargo paused. He set down his pipe. "That is bad," he said in his deep voice. "The greatest anchor in a human life is love, kid, or the void left by love. If he has lost that, no amount of weed you strap to him will help. His soul will flee to the sky." "Give me the heaviest thing you have," Milo said desperately. "Give me regret, give me shame, give me grief. Give me whatever nails a man to the floor. I don't care about the price." Vargo shook his head. "Foreign tissue transplants don't work. You saw that. We can't give your grandfather someone else's grief. We need to descend into his own storage. We must find the anchor of memory, the one he has. Forgotten, but is locked away somewhere deep in the basement of his subconscious." From under the counter, he pulled out a terrifying metal helmet covered in complex cables and vacuum tubes. "This is an echo diver," Vargo said. "Forbidden technology. If you put this on him, you can enter his mind. But be warned, the mind of someone with fading sickness is like a stormy ocean. If you can't find that memory and bring it to the surface, you might get lost in there too. You might forget." Milo didn't hesitate. He took the helmet. "How do I use it?" "Put it on and go to the deepest point," Vargo said. "Ignore the happy memories. They are balloons. They fly away. Look for the heavy stuff. Look for what hurts. Look for the rusty doors." When he returned home, Orion's condition had worsened. He was straining against the leather straps of the bed, screaming, "Let me fly." His body had become so light that he was trying to lift the entire bed frame into the air. Milo placed the metal helmet Vargo gave him onto his grandfather's head. He attached the electrodes on the other end to his own temples. "Don't be afraid, Grandpa," he whispered. "I'm going to bring you back." He pressed the red button on the device. A high-pitched whine filled the room, and the world went black. When Milo opened his eyes, he was not in Aeris. He was in his grandfather's mind, but this place was not a sturdy city. It was a ruin in the process of disintegrating. Buildings seemed made of smoke. They dispersed when touched. Streets started somewhere and ended in the void. The sky was nothing but a blinding white mist. Milo began to walk through this city of the forgotten. He saw millions of colorful balloons floating around. Inside these balloons were scenes. Young Orion riding a bicycle. The balloon floated up and popped. Orion and Milo eating ice cream in the park. It flew up and vanished. These were happy memories. They were light. Happiness was not a branch to hold on to in the sickness. It was volatile. Milo needed to go down. In the center of the mind, he found a spiral staircase descending into what looked like an infinite abyss. The stairs were blackened and covered in moss. As he descended, the air grew cold. The pressure increased. The surrounding mist dissipated, replaced by a dark dampness. Here, in the basement of the mind, were the chests Orion had been too afraid to face for years. The ones he buried, saying, "If I forget, the pain will pass." First floor, the warriors, very heavy, but not enough. Second floor, the day he went bankrupt. Heavy, but not binding. Milo went deeper, to the very bottom. He went so deep that his own breathing became difficult. And there, at the darkest, deepest point of the mind, he found a massive, rusted door locked with heavy chains. Carved onto the door in his grandfather's handwriting was a single word: farewell. He couldn't see inside, but a freezing cold leaked through the cracks. Milo tried to break the chains with his imaginary hands. Open. He screamed inside the mind, remember. The door creaked open. Milo stepped inside. It was an old hospital room. Time was frozen here. Beams of light entering through the window illuminated desk motes suspended in the air. In the bed lay Alyssa, the grandmother Milo had never seen. She was young, pale, but possessed an unearthly beauty. She was taking her final breaths. Sitting by the bedside was young Orion. Orion was crying, but silently. Milo understood in that moment why this memory was so heavy. Young Orion held his wife's hand but could not look at her. He was consumed by shame. "I can't say it," young Orion whispered. "If I say goodbye, I accept that she is dead. If I say farewell, it becomes real." Alyssa squeezed her husband's hand. She wanted to say something, but she lacked the strength. Her eyes searched for that comforting farewell from Orion's lips, but Orion remained silent. Out of cowardice, out of love, out of helplessness, he stayed silent. And Alyssa breathed her last without hearing that word, without finding that peace. At that moment, the heaviest element in the universe settled onto young Orion's shoulders: regret. The weight of unspoken words. Orion had carried this memory for years, walking on the ground with the weight of this regret. But when the sickness came, because it hurt too much, he cut the tether of this memory and locked it in this dungeon. He wanted to be lighter, but lightness meant non-existence. Milo walked toward his young grandfather inside the frozen scene. "You can't run," Milo shouted. "Grandpa, do you hear me? The thing you run from is the only thing keeping you alive." The mental world began to shake. Above, the consciousness of the real Orion, floating on the ceiling, began to be pulled down by this tremor. Milo summoned the ghost of old Orion into this room. "Look," Milo said, pointing to the bed. "Are you going to leave her like this? You didn't say goodbye. Say it now." Old Orion appeared beside his younger self. He was trembling. He looked at his wife. "I can't," the old man said. "It hurts too much, Milo. It feels like there is a mountain on my chest." "You need that mountain, Grandpa," Milo said, weeping. "That mountain is your anchor. If you don't embrace that pain, you will fly away and I will be alone. Please, suffer." Old Orion took a step toward his younger self and merged with him. Time thawed for a moment. Orion held Alyssa's hand. He leaned in. He released the sentence that had been knotted in his throat for years, eating him from the inside. "I let you go, my love. Do not be afraid. I am here. This pain is my inheritance. You fly. I will carry it. In the real world, in Milo's room, something contrary to the laws of physics occurred. Orion stuck to the ceiling and, straining against the straps, suddenly stopped. His eyes opened wide. The empty, foggy look was gone, replaced by a look of deep, agonizing, yet crystal clear clarity. A single tear slid from his eye. In Aeris, tears would float in the air. But the strap was so heavy, filled with such grief and reality, that gravity bowed to it. The drop slid down and hit the pillow. Thud. Immediately after, the creaking of the bed was heard. Orion's body grew heavy. He detached from the ceiling. The bed springs groaned under the sudden impact of tons of invisible weight. The straps tightened. The old man collapsed into the mattress as if an invisible building had collapsed on top of him. Milo took off the helmet and looked at his grandfather, gasping for air. Orion took a deep, rattling breath. Even the air filling his lungs was heavier now. "Milo," he said. His voice was cracked. "I'm here, Grandpa." "I remembered her," Orion said. He began to sob uncontrollably. "I remembered that she left. I remembered that I never said goodbye, Milo. It hurts so much. It feels like my bones are breaking." Milo hugged his grandfather. The old man's arms were no longer featherlight. They were heavy, solid, and real. "I know, Grandpa," Milo said, his tears soaking the old man's shoulder. "Your weight has returned. Welcome back." The next morning, the city of Aeris woke once again to its metallic symphony. Clang, clang. Milo and Orion were sitting on the small, rusty balcony of their home. Below, miles down, white clouds flowed like a river. Orion sat in his rocking chair. The chair no longer hovered. It pressed down onto the wooden floor with all its weight, making a creak, creak sound with every rock. The old man was not wearing wet boots. He wore wool slippers, yet he did not float. The great grief in his heart, that massive regret, and the weight of that belated farewell pulled him toward the center of the earth more powerfully than even the magnetic core. Milo brought the tea. "How do you feel?" he asked. Orion held the cup with trembling hands. His gaze drifted far away, beyond the clouds. "Tired," Orion said. "Every step is difficult, as if I am carrying a corpse on my back. I am not happy, Milo. I am not light." Then he pulled the silver-framed photo of Alyssa from his pocket. He held the photo so tightly his knuckles turned white. "But," Orion said, turning to Milo, a sad wisdom shone in his eyes, "I would rather be crushed by this pain than fly away, because this pain is the proof that she once existed. This weight is the proof that I am human." The city of Aeris continued to live like a pendulum swinging in the void. People strapped on iron filled their pockets with stones to keep from flying. But on that small balcony, an old man and his grandson stood firm without the help of any metal, anchored against the storm only by the immense weight of the love and grief in their hearts. Milo understood that day. It was not gravity that pressed us to the ground, saving us from being lost in the void of the universe. What made us who we were the heavy, precious burdens we chose to carry on our shoulders and in our hearts. And now, as the metallic echoes of Aeris fade into a distant whisper, you too can gently set down the invisible weights you have carried today. Let the thoughts of the day, the worries of tomorrow, dissolve like soft clouds drifting across a quiet sky. With every slow breath, feel yourself being drawn toward a peaceful stillness, the way Orion was anchored back to life by a tender, unseen gravity. The world asks nothing from you tonight, only that you rest, that you simply exist. And step softly through the doorway of dreams. As your eyes close, remember that every heart eventually finds its calm harbor. Sleep now. A gentle darkness is wrapping you in its kind and patient embrace.